Alright, so I did notice something here, and this is just a video to kind of compare the bullet magnetism between mouse and controller for Halo Reach on PC. You're going to have to kind of bear with me here, as I'm basically just recording over the VLC output, which I know is probably not the best solution, but I don't really have any editing software installed right now, so yeah, we're just going to go ahead. So in this bit, I am just testing how close I actually need to get to the target to actually, like, get the bullet magnetism to kick in. So, as you can see, I essentially need to be directly on top of the other target for the overshields to kick in, which means I've actually hit what I'm aiming at. And that is waiting between bloom. So I guess we're just going to go on to the next bit here, which is footage from a YouTube video here, or not. It's actually just going to stop, so we're just going to go ahead and play and skip to the next one. And this footage was uploaded by the user Wumsy, and this was taken with controller as opposed to keyboard and mouse. So we're going to just demonstrate what that looks like and how quickly the bullet magnetism will kick in if you're using a controller. So again, I had to have the crosshair about on this position. I was about halfway into the center crosshair when the bullet magnetism kicks in. Do remember that this actually drops off with distance as well. So the further you are away, the longer it will take for bullet magnetism to kick in. At least that's what I have experienced. And from what I can see, it appears that they may actually be standing further away from each other than the two of us were. So we're just going to go ahead. So as you can see, he's kind of in a similar spot, but now I just want you to keep watching here. And this next bit here is really the kicker. So as you can see, he's pretty much not even aiming at the target, but the bullet magnetism is kicking in. Now, combining this with the fact that aim assist will essentially put you into that position consistently is the major reason that a lot of people are really pissed off about the fact that Halo Reach even has aim assist at all. I know that they say that bullet magnetism exists for the mouse as well as the controller. However, it's quite obvious that there are different values for the controller bullet magnetism and the actual mouse bullet magnetism, as we've seen here. And on top of that, this individual is continuously firing, which is kicking up the bloom, which would be kicking up the spread, which means that they don't need to worry about spread as much because the bullets are still getting pulled into the target. So essentially, there's a large list of factors that go into the fact that using the controller right now on Halo Reach on PC is just objectively better than using the mouse. There's no if, and, or but about it. It's just objectively better. First off, you have the fact that, and I'll pull this guy over here. I can actually pull up the video here. We'll just mute this. And again, here's the individual in question who uploaded the footage. So, and we will show the tracking here. So this first bit of tracking was done with next to no actual thumbstick movement. So as you can see here, the individual is essentially being tracked almost entirely by the auto aim. There are segments where the movement gets really sharp where the individual is moving the thumbstick, but overall you can still see that tracking where they're following the individual with the thumbstick. And now if you watch here, you'll see that it'll stop on the individual as they're moving over it with the crosshair. This is the issue. This doesn't happen for mouse. This is why using a controller is just straight up far more effective than using the mouse right now. Like, I don't know how else to explain this. You can sit there and pretend this isn't an issue because you like using the controller and killing people more effectively, but that doesn't change the fact that it is an issue. This is a problem. Like, this is an unfair advantage. You see, when somebody tracks somebody with the mouse, that's because they put hours and hours and hours into practicing with the mouse. They're able to use the mouse far more effectively because they've practiced with it. Whereas this right here is just part of the game. It is built into the game. The computer is aiming for you. That's the issue I have with it. It's not so much that I think controller players are bad. I think it's more so the fact that this is just a straight up unfair advantage. Because you have to put the hours in to be able to do this with a mouse. Whereas with a controller, you can just pick it up and it aims for you. And I don't see how in any way, shape, or form that's any way more fair. Because it's just not. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to get across here, and I think that's what needs to be focused on here. This combined with the aim assist that locks you onto the target, it doesn't literally lock you on, but it makes it far easier to stay on the target. In fact, in some cases, it appears to just be keeping you on target even when you're out of reticle distance, when the reticle is no longer red and it really shouldn't be actually locking on, which was the original way that CE did it. It still locks and it tracks for a period. It doesn't track as effectively, but it still tracks. And that's the issue. You have these guys going into SWAT matches where they're nailing headshots from across the map because the bullet magnetism is pulling their round into the head. And I don't know how else to explain this. It's just not fair because you'll get the bullet spread from the distance and you'll miss your shot because you don't have the bullet magnetism at that distance at that strength. Whereas somebody with a controller will have the magnetism at that strength and it'll pull the round into your face. You can't win a 1-to-1 fight like that if both guys get the same shot off on the same part at the same time. One guy's going to lose 9 out of 10 times just because that's the way the game's built. This isn't the fault of the players. I want to make that perfectly clear. The players aren't causing this issue. This is an issue inherent with the game. The problem isn't that console players are bad or that controllers are a shitty interface and people who use them are bad people. It's that there's an inherent advantage, and a lot of people in the community seem to just be ignoring that fact because it makes them feel like they're more skilled. The reality is you're not aiming. The computer is aiming for you. There's no skill involved in letting the computer aim for you. That's why when you go into games like Red Dead Redemption or GTA Online, they segregate lobbies based on who's using a controller and gets that aim boost and who isn't. And you can still join controller lobbies if your friends are there, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be automatically placed into one if you're just using a mouse, because it wouldn't be fair to add someone who doesn't have that aim assist into a lobby like that. It's just not a fair situation to play in. But again, you have a lot of these controller players that are like, well, yeah, but, you know, I like it. And that's about the entirety of their argument, or you're mad. And I get that it's easy to throw out there and it's fun to say, haha, you're just mad, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm still right. And that's kind of the issue that we have here. This is a problem, and pretending it's not a problem is not going to make that problem go away. That's just going to make people stop playing the multiplayer. Like, I don't want to queue for matchmaking in this situation. And here's my thing. I have been playing Halo since I was 4 years old. I played it on the original Xbox when it was released for it. And I've kept playing it. I've played it on the PC. I've played it on the Xbox. I played it on the 360. I've played it on just about every system it's been released on except the Xbox One because I stopped playing after Halo 4. And this isn't coming from the perspective of somebody who only plays PC games. Like, I crushed the shit out of Call of Duty back in the day when Black Ops was a big thing. And I've had plenty of experience playing shooters with a 6-axis controller, and I can just say for a fact that it's objectively better playing with a mouse. However, you're seeing people with controllers go into lobbies, and with this additional aim assist, with this additional bullet magnetism, completely stomp all over mouse players, which just shouldn't be the case. We have statistical evidence showing that 9 out of 10 times you put a guy up against, with a controller up against a mouse, the guy with the mouse is going to win most times if the controller dude doesn't have aim assist. And it's like, I just don't understand. I don't get it. Like, because I understand that people want to win the game. That's part of the reason you want to play the game. But you're playing with an unfair advantage, and you're not winning the game. The computer is winning the game for you. It's the same thing as cheating. You're not running an application or something to literally cheat, but the game is essentially cheating for you. That's kind of the situation we're in. I know cheating is a very harsh word to use, but that's essentially what we're looking at here. I mean, CSGO doesn't have aim assist on PC for the controller because, well, that would be unfair. People would use the controller because you wouldn't need to aim. And it's just the case with every serious shooter out there, and that's why people are kind of a little bit pissed off and annoyed at this It's because it's just not fair. Now, I'm not saying get rid of the aim assist entirely. You could probably just disable the bullet magnetism for everybody, and that would be fine. But even then, the aim assist does need to be turned down. Like, this shit is super fucking strong. So I think this is something that needs to be considered. That, and as we can see in the footage here, there's a different value for the bullet magnetism on a controller compared to the one on a mouse. So at least that's what I'm seeing here. I could be totally off about it. We could have fucked something up with the testing. But this is pretty much the same thing. I don't know. I think somebody needs to look into this. I think 343 needs to go over the values for this stuff and either confirm or deny whether or not there's an issue. But aim assist does need to be at the very least toned down, because it is simply far too strong in its current status to even be worth playing in multiplayer. It's just not worth playing Halo Reach matchmaking because almost everyone's using a controller and almost everyone's letting the computer aim for them. I just don't feel like playing multiplayer anymore on this because it's just not fair. And it's shitty because I've been waiting for this to come out for a long time. I'm waiting for Halo CE to come out, but if this is the situation in Halo CE, like I'm not going to play it. I just won't. I'll play co-op with a few friends. I'll go through the campaign because I still love the campaign for these games. But I'm not going to sit here and play multiplayer on this. I'll go back to like my actual copy of Halo CE. I don't know if it's on the desktop here. Let's take a look. This is my Windows install because I was doing Windows software earlier. I guess it's not on there. But I do have CE. Like, I have the original PC version on my machine somewhere. I would rather play that with the broken netcode and the fact that you literally need to aim like 3 or 4 meters in front of people to hit the actual hitbox when you're playing with more than 100 ping, then I would rather play that than play Halo Reach multiplayer with the current aim assist system, because that's the equivalent of just playing with someone who's cheating. And it's not the player's fault. It's not the people using the controller's fault that this is happening. This isn't something they're maliciously doing, and I want to make that very clear. I'm not taking the piss out of the people using the controllers. I'm not saying you guys are terrible. I'm just saying that you objectively have an advantage here. I guess that's all I really want to cover. I don't really know how to close this, but yeah, I guess just getting my thoughts out there. This was a bit more of a rant. I know I haven't uploaded in a long time, but yeah, so I guess I could be totally wrong about the testing, but we'll see. Anyways, aim assist needs to be addressed soon. Otherwise, there's not going to be anybody like me playing anymore because I don't own a computer to use a controller. That's as simple as it is.